sinners, and saints. Dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
There are just some days where you just don't give a fuck. I mean, am I wrong there, honestly? And today is one of those damn days. I mean, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? What the fuck? And I'll have to be honest here. I may be a little drunk, which is probably adding to my audacious behavior. My bad boy sentimentality is really taking over. It might be post-happy hour. It might be pre-happy hour. I'm not sure exactly, depending on my mood here shortly after we get done with this episode. Yeah, I'm still in that phase of digesting all that's going on, still absorbing the dread that I feel, trying to come to terms with all the bullshit. We just have to deal with it, right? It won't be any different this time than last time, only much worse this time. And no, I'm not talking about hemorrhoid surgery either. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and I don't even have to utter the name, do I? But enough about that. I hope you're all feeling well and sexy and pussy, and I hope you're horny if you want to be, and welcome to Alan After Dark, the shit show train wreck of this week in your life. So hopefully you'll get a chuckle or two or three, or you'll just throw up in the parking lot. I don't know. I could be describing myself there. Who knows? I was thinking a lot over this past week about past encounters with people that I didn't like or that I turned down. Do you all ever do that? Do you all ever think about certain encounters you had or you avoided that make for funny storytelling? I guess I do a few of them, but I do try to purge a lot of that from my mind, especially you long-term listeners. You know about my stalker incident and all that. So I've had enough terrifying incidents to make me want to sort of just get rid of all the ones that were just harmless, no thank yous, and just let it all go. If I was to describe myself, I think we do have darker sides, all of us, and I think we have an alter ego, whether we admit it or not. And I do have an alter ego, and he can be quite unpleasant. I guess you could say that Alan is the nice one, and my alter ego is the one who takes care of business whenever it's necessary. He's the protector. He's the one who puts Alan first. He has a forked tongue. He can be mean as a snake and can be very protective. Obviously, very asshole-ish, if you know what I mean.
I don't like you. I don't like you at all.
A lot of times when someone approaches me at the bar and I'm not interested and they don't seem to get hints that I'm giving, the alter ego comes out and really lets them have it. I can remember back in the good old days when a guy would actually come up to you and ask you what your zodiac sign was. And this guy, I noticed him staring at me. And usually the stare method is how you focus, and everybody can sense when somebody is staring at them usually. And he was hoping that I would turn and look at him and I would acknowledge his stare. And I was doing everything I could not to do that. I was hoping that he would get the hint that I wasn't interested or I wasn't going to look over, and maybe he would be too chicken to come over and approach me face to face. Well, I was wrong. And he comes up and he sits. Well, actually didn't even sit. He kind of squeezed in between seats and leaned against the bar, really right up in my space, which totally irritates the fuck out of me if someone does that. But he just said something like, "What's your sign?" And I looked over at him and I just said, "Closed." He got the message then and he walked away. I'm not saying that we all should be mean or ugly to people that we're not interested in, but sometimes if they don't get the message, you don't have much choice but to be pretty firm with them in saying no. Isn't it funny how we can a lot of times tell which ones that we can politely say no to and those we don't dare be mean to? It's like we can sense their personalities and know which ones are nice and polite and we'll just walk away, and those that turn into Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction. I do seem to get my share of those. I really do. The lunatics. And you would think that would go for a more prettier person. I've never really totally fully understood that, even though I've had explained that it's about the person's own self-esteem, that I'm as good as they can possibly get, so that's why they try for me. And to all my friends who've told me that, eat shit and die. Sorry, that's the vodka talking, but, where's the lie? And I do think that that's why, for me, and maybe for a lot of other guys, when we are attracted to someone and we don't approach them and we just kind of admire them from afar, it's because we don't want to be bruised by a no. We like to kind of exist in that fantasy where it's always a possibility. And the thing is, though, as I'm describing it myself, being one of the ugly guys, one of my best friends pointed out about how you have nothing to lose. Even Dorothy Zbornak on Golden Girls, that one time she said, when you take a chance, sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen. But if you don't take a chance, nothing happens. It kind of says it right there. I mean, if you want to look at gospel, a biblical phrase, there should be one right there, that sometimes it is worth taking the chance. Because I have taken chances and I have landed some of the hottest guys in town and around the world on occasion. But I don't ever recall ever being one of those persons who didn't just take no for an answer. Now, somebody that's listening to this that I had an encounter with in the past, you might disagree. Although I would wonder why you'd be listening to me. Oh, yeah, someone told me that there are some people who listen to my podcast because they're wondering if they can figure out who I'm talking about sometimes. But I promise you, I'm not talking about the person you think I am. Did that make sense? I don't know. I gotta admit also that the alter ego has an ego, an overinflated ego, and cannot stand the thought of someone hooking up with a guy and not hooking up with me. It's like I've had that issue before. Now, of course, as I've gotten older, I could care less about any of that shit now. But when I was younger and I was desperately holding on to some sort of concept that maybe I'm hot, and when a person you approach turns you down and then you see them leave with somebody that you think is not as hot as you are, it is damaging to the ego. And it's hard for me, and I'm sure most men, to accept. Now, I'm like, oh, what the fuck ever. Actually, I don't even approach anybody anymore. I could care less about any of that. If something happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And the circumstances will always be now that the person has to approach me and say something to me before I will them, in most cases. Unless they just happen to come up and sit beside me, and I'll make small talk with anybody sitting around. Conversation is fun, as long as they don't come at me with their tongue and try to put their hand down my pants, unless I've given permission first. You know what? If the Mohawk man was to come walking into the bar, I would probably jizz in my pants right there. I would probably go for him and just offer him. I'm like, you know what? You want your dick sucked? I would do that. Yeah, without hesitation, I think. And he would probably say no, and that's fine. But I would get turned on just by seeing him walk in. And God, children, this morning, he was wearing those fantastic jeans that he wears, the tan color jeans that just set his body on fire. I mean, and he's reshaved his head, so the tattoo on the side of his head is showing through. The full mohawk is back, and he just looked delicious. Just absolutely mouth-watering.
Oh my God. What is this?
I bet he's a jerk, though. I bet he's a full-on asshole. And boy, that conversation just turned there, didn't it? Anyway, I'm getting to the fact that he probably would not damage my ego because I feel like I have no chance with him anyway. So it would be like, oh, well, that's what I thought would happen. Or, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sucking his dick right now. It would be one or the other, really. And either one's fine. Now, granted, I prefer the close encounter of the booty kind, but if I don't get that, I can still say, well, I know now that some guy's getting it, and I'd actually probably pay money to see that. Damn. I think I need some more vodka. Oh, Jesus. Well, I am going to happy hour, and I'm just a little buzzed. So don't get your panties in a wad. You think I'm going to do something stupid or reckless. Hell's bells. I've been stupid and reckless since I was 21. So, well, actually 16, but don't tell anybody, okay? Are there people in your life that you are attracted to that have damaged your ego in that way? Or, I mean, hurt your feelings, but I don't know. How does that supposed to work? Nobody has an obligation to hook up with you or with me. I don't have the right to have somebody say yes. So if they say no, why should I really be mad at them? I know it's just the human condition, but it really doesn't make sense why we do that. Is it just human behavior? Actually, I think it's just guys being assholes. But what would I know about that, right? Of course I'm an asshole. Half of the years of my life I've been an asshole. But if I was an asshole to you, it was because you probably deserved it. Or I was just being a dick. Boy, dick, asshole. Somebody's getting sex tonight, and it won't be me. Have you ever implied that you were going to hook up with someone and then, like, sneak out and never see them again? I have done that, unfortunately, a couple of times. I remember the one time following somebody to their place, and I felt that it was becoming a little sketchy, so I just managed to lose them. They thought I was behind them still, and I wasn't, and made a beeline straight home and hoped that I would never run into them again. It is interesting in a small, well, I live in a city, but it's still a small gay community. The number of people that I always saw once or twice in the club back in the day. That is a fascinating thing. And let's be honest, a lot of them were married to women, pretending to be straight, living the straight life, and sneaking off to the bar, to the club, to get some pork sword. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you got to do what you got to do, people. I just think that lying to yourself winds up being more painful to you than just admitting to yourself the truth. And maybe you have done that. Maybe you have, and you just have to live this life to make yourself safe and protected or whatever. But I do remember over the years quite a few straight guys that would come trolling in looking for some. Well, I think I told you all, didn't I? That really hot guy that night, way back in the day, he comes walking into the club and he made jaws drop. Eyes were bugging out. He was absolutely drop dead sexy. He was just spectacular. And my friend Jessica, she said to me, she says, you better get over there on that if you want a shot, because he's not going to be on the market very long here. Everybody's already circling him, looking to make their move. Somebody did, in fact, buy him a drink that he did accept, but I made the beeline to him and wound up hooking up with him. And he said that during the pillow talk, he said that his wedding was the next day, and he just needed to see if he was doing the right thing by marrying this girl. And I'm like, after what we just did, you might want to rethink it. But I'm pretty sure that he went through with it. And I mean, I hope he's happy. I hope he is. But if he's not, and he's listening to this podcast, hey, how you doing? Remember me? I gave you the time of your life the night before your wedding in that hotel on the west side of town. Remember? Well, look me up. There's ways to find me, and I am available. But yeah, that was one of those where I wasn't about to sneak out or turn him down. But I have done all those things. It sucks to be put in that position, but how else is it going to happen? For as many no's, there's as many yeses. So if you play your odds, 50-50 isn't that bad. If it's 20-80, then you probably have some problems you need to work on. You know what, though? A lot of times, and let's be honest here, yes, there has to be a sexual attraction, a physical attraction. But, I've done it with guys based on their personality. I have. Knowing it's just going to be a hookup and you can enjoy the time. They're fun to be around. Why not indulge in a little hand-to-hand lovemaking? What the hell was that? What does that mean? Jesus. You know what I mean? Just somebody that you get along with and it's fun. And if you just want to jack off together or, just chat naked in bed, have at it. I think that's fun. If your goal is more about the physical attraction, then, well, that's your boat to float in. Granted, if I'm out just looking for a one-night stand, it's going to be somebody that I'm really hot for. It's not going to be just anybody. But get enough vodka in me and my hands will roam almost anywhere. Roam so much you could call me the capital of Italy. What? Jesus, Ellen, I don't know. Jesus. Y'all forgive me this one bad episode, won't you? Nah, probably not. You're all as fickle as I am. I guess one advantage of using the hookup apps and social media is that it is easier to just turn somebody down, isn't it? What's it called? Like ghosting, where you just all of a sudden cut off all communication and contact with someone. I guess that happens a lot on the hookup apps, doesn't it? A lot easier than looking somebody in the eye and doing it, I suppose. It makes it less awkward unless you run into the person out in a club or a bar or out somewhere and they demand some sort of explanation, which, if it happened to me, well, I actually do have a ghosting issue with not even on social media in real life. They just suddenly stop talking to me and everything, and I have no clue why. And I really would like to know, but I'm never going to get that answer, apparently. So you have to let it go, which is what I've done, even though it still hurts a little bit, because I thought we would be good friends. I never thought about an actual physical relationship, just really close friends. What else can I say about that? Really, not much, right? Other than the world isn't fair, people aren't fair, life isn't fair. It's just the way it is sometimes. And like an algebraic formula, you just sometimes have to accept it. I will add that I do think that it's easier to end a romantic relationship than it is to end a friendship. A lot of times a friendship has lasted much, much longer than a romantic relationship has, and the bond can be deeper and on different levels, many different levels than the person you were dating. And yeah, I've had friendships end. Isn't it strange too how we tend to make friends at work and they become part of your closest circle, and when the job is over or if one person leaves or whatever, those friendships just wither away in most cases. It's really rare that those last. I've always found that interesting and kind of indicative of what the relationship really was, right? That you had this one thing in particular in common, and that's what the friendship was built on. And without that commonality, the friendship just kind of dies. I don't think it's anybody's fault, and I don't think there's anything to blame. It's just we grow apart. It's hard to stay in contact with someone that you were used to seeing every day during the week. And if you don't have that constant connection, I think that's what happens. And it's happened over and over, I think, to all of us. It is disappointing. There are several people that I wish we were still friends, but it just doesn't seem to be that way. Now, the romantic type, once that's over, it's over. In most cases, I've had romantic dalliances with some guys, and we have maintained friendship, and that's great. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. But that also came after all these years. I am a different person than I was when I was young, and I don't want to beat that dead horse, but yeah, my mentality now is not the same as it was even 10 years ago. Now, it's not even a driving force in my life. And I've talked about that before too. I have no desire to be in a romantic relationship. And I know people feel sorry for me on that, but don't be. I'm enjoying life for what it is. And the bonds I have with friends more than make up that difference. Of course, I wonder about getting older and if my health starts failing, and I've talked about that before, so I don't really need to get into it. But it really is the biggest change in me. When I was younger, I really did want a relationship. I wanted one to last forever and to be happy. And now I know that I'm happy regardless. Thank you for joining me in the most random, chaotic episode of Alan After Dark ever, I think. Credit the vodka. Remember, masturbation is your friend. Oh, also, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon.